Talk to me. WSRadio.com.
The San Diego Council on Literacy brings you Literacy for All with your host, Jose Cruz.
Welcome to the show. I'm Jose Cruz from the San Diego Council on Literacy. You're listening to the Literacy for All radio show on WS Radio. And our guests today are from up in the North County of San Diego, Palomar College. And one of the things we want to have more fun with in our future shows, we just haven't done enough of it with our show, is bringing on more learners and bringing on more individuals who have come a long ways on their journey to literacy. So to help us today share that story and she's going to introduce our guest, and you're our guest, Nora Kenney-Whitley. She is the head of the Transitions Program at Palomar College. Welcome back to the show, Nora.
Thank you, Jose.
Hey.
It's good to be here.
Yeah, thank you for setting us up. This is our last show of the year, so just want to let you know that.
Very cool.
A very interesting year, right? Yeah, and folks getting through a lot of stuff. So tell us about the Transitions Program, and then maybe lead that into your introduction of our guest.
That sounds good. So the Transitions Program at Palomar College is part of a growing, blossoming movement for moving the pipeline from prisons and jails to college. Mm-hmm. And so the Transitions Program at Palomar College encompasses two contexts. We have college credit classes that we offer in the Vista Jail. Right now we have a couple classes that are still going on despite stay-at-home restrictions and our faculty not being able to go physically into the jail. Mm-hmm. So we have credit classes that happen at the jail, and that's a thriving program. And then we have a program for students who are formerly incarcerated or system impacted to come to campus at Palomar College. And they move through the system as a cohort, which is a very powerful model. They take classes together, and the first two classes that they take together during our summer program are designed specifically for formerly incarcerated and system impacted students. So last summer we had a program, even though it was virtual, we still had a thriving program that featured our college success, which was a counseling class, and that helps students to navigate college systems and to learn those literacies. And then the other class we have is a sociology class that looks at the incarceration system and mass incarceration. So that happens every summer. Last summer was a little different because of the virtual restrictions, but it worked out just fine. So we had a lot of amazing students, one of whom I have with me here today.
Very good, very good. And do you want to give us his name, and then we'll go on from there.
Okay, so we have our student Luis Jimenez here today, and Luis joined our program in the summer, but has been a longtime Palomar and Mira Costa College student. And Luis has emerged as a leader in our school, in the broader community. These transitions programs are thriving across the state of California at community colleges and universities and across the nation. So Luis is a great example of what a transition student looks like and how amazing our transition students are.
Excellent. Welcome to the show, Luis. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me here.
So glad to have you. And you seem really comfortable. Is it your first time on radio?
Yeah, it's actually my first time on the radio.
Very good. And we're glad to have you on the show and to learn from you. You go back as far as you want to in your story. Okay. And the further back you go, I think the more interesting, right? Because it sounds like you come to a place and you're really done a lot in your journey, but how did everything start for you, and how did you come to be where you are right now? And I might have to stop because we're going to take breaks, etc.
That's okay.
So take your time and let's have you move up to the mic just a little bit. Very good.
Actually, my journey with incarceration started in the fall of 2013. I had just gotten married, and I discovered that my wife was having an affair. So I attempted to commit suicide by cop, and that landed me in some legal troubles. I thought at the time that, my life was over, my college career was over. I was like, I'm never going to go back to school. I got this stamp on my head saying this guy's a felon, this guy's a bad person, because that's the stigma that, the system pushes onto you as a formerly incarcerated person. And then I didn't go to school for about 2 years. And that's when I ended up at Maricosa. Things were going well, and it wasn't until Mr. Trump took over the presidency. And I had no contact with law enforcement. I was doing everything that I was supposed to do. In fact, I had achieved every semester that I was in Maricosa a 4.0. And in the spring of 2016, it was a horrible semester because that's when immigration came out and got me. And my experience there, I can tell you that they stripped me from my human identity. What you see on TV, it happens. Like, they give you like the blanket that they give you. It's like some thin paper, Yeah. And I know the abuse doesn't happen in the hands of, you could say the federal government of ICE. It actually happens in the hands of immigration. And I say that because, when I got there, there was this guy, he was a older gentleman, right? And he wasn't feeling well. And at the time I had already learned not to ask these guys for anything because, they were just total a-holes.
Not nice.
Yeah. And so I went up to him and he was laying on his bed and I said, do you need any help? And he said, yeah, I'm not feeling good. The food that they're serving us here, it's not sitting me well. So I was like, man, do you want me to go ask for help? And of course, this conversation, was in Spanish.
Yeah.
So I was like, man, I'm going to take one for the team. So I go and I knock on the door. It's a dorm. Probably like 20 people are there, from all over the world. So I knock and the Border Patrol agent sees me, and this is a brown brother, and he goes, what the fuck do you want? And I said, man, look, listen. The old guy over there, like, he needs medical attention. Can you help him? And he's like, fuck, can't you see I'm busy? So he slams the door, goes back in, sits down, he's looking at his phone.
Yeah.
And he's texting, That's how busy he was. About 5 minutes later, he comes out. And this agent could have easily been this guy's dad, So he calls him over. And, the man's trying to explain to him that, the food is not sitting him well, whatever. And I guess the whole family had, gotten taken into custody, right? And so the agent was like, well, you know what, since your daughter over there on the other side, she already told us like that, she was having, health issues. We called the paramedics. There was nothing wrong with her. So just how she acted like a fucking drama queen, I'm going to treat her like a fucking drama king. So if you die or something happens to you, we'll figure it out then. As of now, I got a lot of shit to do. And I'm just standing there, At that time, I had already had, some college experience. And I'm just sitting there like, is this really happening in the United States, So
you never expected to have this experience in your life. So
no,
so you got right in the middle of what was happening. I think happening to a lot of people at that time. So you lived it. Yeah,
definitely. And at the time I was taking a Spanish class, and rest in peace, my professor. He was a really good friend of mine. He said something like, you can communicate with, signs and you don't have to speak the language, And so that's exactly what happened there, I got to hear some of the most horrible and heartbreaking stories, People were literally coming to this country because, in their homeland, they were, being persecuted or, because of like political affiliations, they were being driven out of their country. So, it was really a horrible experience. And what's crazy is that, the federal government, they have this sheet, right? And I guess it's like a way to tell the public, hey, we're doing everything that we can to treat these people well, right? And I think that's just bogus because it's a way to just fill out the form.
Sure.
There was only like 5 showers there, okay? And no, there was 3 showers. and the middle one was the only one that had hot water, and only had hot water for like the first 5 minutes. They made a shower around 11 p.m. and they would blast the AC. So if you were the first one to take a shower, then you got hot water.
Yeah.
And you know those Bounty, paper towels, those rolls. So take 2 of those, and that's your towel. So by the time you're done drying yourself, you got no towel.
Very good. Luis, I'm gonna have you even go back ahead of that. I want to kind of find out your history in the North County, first language, etc.
Okay.
And even they've talked to us even before you were married, how you did in school and such, and so people have a better sense of even having come from that experience. What was happening before that. And then again, where you are today.
Okay. And
telling this story is one of the things I think it's essential that people understand. And we saw a bit of it on TV, right? Really bad things were happening.
Yeah.
But that here we have you. So I didn't expect this story, and it's important that it's told, because otherwise people have the wrong idea that everything's okay, and that and there's some people who are troublemakers, and that's why they get treated the way that they do. But you saw for what it was. So
yeah, I mean, for anybody that's listening, the question that I would ask, I mean, even if you are a troublemaker, do you not have the right to have some toothpaste?
Absolutely.
Because for a week I didn't brush my teeth.
Yeah. So we're going to come back to you, Luis.
Okay.
You're listening to the Literacy for All radio show. I'm Mosaic Cruz from the San Diego Council on Literacy. We're going to come back with Luis and Nora. This is WS Radio, the worldwide leader in Internet talk.
Homeless veterans and their families are suffering and need our support, but many won't ask or don't know that help is within reach. Veterans Community Services is here to help. Amazingly, about 35% of the homeless in our neighborhoods are veterans with families. Low-income veterans or their friends are encouraged to contact Veterans Community Services and reach out for help with housing and other services. Call now, 800-974-9909.
I'm Dr. Janet Woodcock, Director for the Center for Drugs at FDA. If you've recovered from COVID-19, confirmed by a positive test, you're in a special position to help us fight the virus. Your plasma has antibodies that can fight COVID. Please donate plasma now. You can help save lives. There are locations across the country that have safe ways for you to donate. Find a site to donate your plasma at coronavirus.gov.
Produced by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services at taxpayer expense.
This is Bill Gruber with BizVid Communications, a Southern California video production leader. We've been honored to sponsor, produce, write, and host many of the fine programs on WS Radio over the years. So we understand how important the internet and your website exposure are. As video producers, we know the tricks and secrets to incorporate video to increase your search engine optimization and business success. Visit bizvidcommunications.com to see what we can do for you. BIZVID communications.com.
Tired of presentations with no impact, no inspiration, and no traction? Do dull speakers have you and your team disengaged and distracted by smartphones? Christopher McCullough brings energy, insights, and 2 decades of experience, delivered with punch, humor, and heart. Your team will leave energized, uplifted, and with a sense of purpose. Visit ChristopherMcCullough.com to bring some heat to your next speaking engagement. MCAULIFFE. ChristopherMcCullough.com.
Can you imagine a world without children? A world without their smiles or their laughter? A world where children don't play or sing or dream or imagine?
At St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, we can't imagine a world without children. That's why we're working every day to find cures for diseases that strike down children everywhere. Diseases like cancer, pediatric AIDS, and sickle cell. And we won't stop until every child is cured and every disease is defeated. Because we can't imagine a world without children. Can you?
Finding cures, saving children. St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. To learn how you can help, log on to our website, stjude.org.
Talk to me. WSRadio.com.
The San Diego Council on Literacy brings you Literacy for All with your host, Jose Cruz.
Welcome back to the show. I'm Jose Cruz from the San Diego Council on Literacy. You're listening to the Literacy for All radio show on WS Radio. We're talking to Luis Jimenez and also Nora Kenney-Whitley, and they're both from the Palomar College Transitions Program, and Nora works in that program, and Luis is a participant. We've been listening to your story, Luis, just about what took place in 2016 and having to deal with some of the abuse, immigration abuse and such, and some of the things that we saw on TV, and kind of some of us have heard some of these stories before, right? And we believe them. But I think the more that a person like you shares these stories, it's really helpful. Tell us just maybe your history in the U.S., maybe when you made it up to the North County, native to Mexico.
Yeah.
Okay, and came here in what year?
Yeah, I came here in 2000. I was about 10 years old. I didn't come by choice.
Mm-hmm.
My mother forced me to come over here. The first couple of months were great, but things took a quick turn for the worst.
Mm-hmm.
My mom lived with somebody at the time, with my stepfather.
Mm-hmm.
He was an alcoholic. And he used meth, so there was a lot of abuse in the home.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, like around 11, when I turned 11, like sometimes I would wake up, with the knife on my neck, like I was just playing. Like he would beat my mom, like he, would try to pull out her teeth, So I saw a lot of violence,
Mm-hmm.
and that
Mm-hmm.
took me to the streets, and it you know what? A lot of people are gonna say, well, it kind of solidifies what Trump says, But today I tell my story because, I have a choice. I can either be at peace with myself and at war with the world, or at war with myself
Mm-hmm.
and at peace with the world.
Mm-hmm.
And as a person of color, and having gone through this immigration experience, I run the risk of getting some backslash because of saying this, from the federal government.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's important to tell my story because there's a lot of people out there that just they think that we have a good system when in fact we don't. I didn't really care about school,
Mm-hmm.
I was always afraid of math, and math. If I could put fear in a tangible form, you would understand how much that fear has controlled me for so many years in my academic career, not just in college, but as well as in from my K to 12. So when I was in Mexico, I lived with my godmother.
Mm-hmm.
from the time I was 6 to the time I was 7 years old, and my traumatic experience with mathematics began at the age of 6.
Mm-hmm.
And so they would scare me. They would put me in a room, scare me until I would pee myself, unfortunately. And
because you're struggling with math, you didn't understand it?
No, they were just as a form of punishment.
In general.
So, in general. So, but whenever we would do homework, if I didn't get, the answer right, or if I didn't understand it immediately, my godmother would grab a, high pressure hose, and I still remember the color of it. It had red and blue threads on it. She would just slam
Mm-hmm.
that thing on my back, So that's where the trauma began, and I remember sitting in class, just not understanding what I was feeling, but I was afraid, and I was anxious every time I saw numbers.
And so when you say in class in Mexico?
In Mexico, yeah.
And how about in class after you were 10, 11 years old in the U.S.?
Oh, it carried on. So in the 7th grade, I was just sitting there. I'm like, man, we're going to talk about division. We're going to talk about multiplication. I don't know how to divide. I don't know how to subtract. And that carried on all the way through high school. And I couldn't graduate high school because I couldn't pass the high school exit exam. And it wasn't until my first son was about to be born that I started to think, well, I need to give my son a better life. And so during my youth years, a mentor by the name of Frank Pucci, he was a counselor at Palomar College. He planted that seed of education in me. And he said, do you want to go to college? There's a better life than this 5-mile radius that you think you live in. So I decided to go back to the continuation school that I was going to, JCCS. And I was already 19 at the time, but they allowed me back. I just begged the principal, and even though I have had some behavior issues, I don't consider myself a bad person. I consider myself a noble and good-hearted person. And I think that was what changed the mind of the principal at the school and said, yeah, come on.
Yeah, and I'm listening to you, Luis, and I'm not hearing you say, I was in gangs, I used to get in trouble, I used to beat up, hurt people, steal from people, do drugs, or and you're not blaming anyone, and that's noble. It sounds like you kept yourself. You were true to yourself.
You know what? I did. Unfortunately, not unfortunately, I think fortunately, because it has created who I am today. So there was a lot of kids that I grew up with that were part of the neighborhood, and I hung around with those kids.
I did too. yeah.
And talk about drugs. They're a way to numb the pain. And so like all of these things that I went through in my life as a youth and until now, it's like, for example, you go and you buy a computer, right? But let's say you've never touched the computer. How is it that you're able to maneuver this device if you don't know how it works? That's how my emotions were. I knew they were there, but my whole life I was told, don't get mad or don't get sad or things like that, So whenever I was feeling a certain type of way, and today, now that I have those tools to navigate through these treacherous emotional waters, I'm like, okay, well, I'm just feeling sad, But before, the intensity of the feelings, because of all the trauma that I had endured as a child, I didn't know how to deal with it,
Yeah. So learning is hard under those conditions, and it seems like you've gone past that. And not only that, you didn't give up. You had where did that come from? That you had a plan for yourself?
You know what? I actually did not have a plan. I think it was the fact that my mom has always instilled in me never give up, and for people like Dr. Nora, she blindly took a chance on me, she really did. And I'm back on track. I just applied to UCSD, Berkeley, and hopefully I get in. But going back to that high school, like I said, I couldn't divide, couldn't subtract, couldn't do anything, So I went back, and I was 3 or 5 points away from getting a perfect score in the math exit exam.
My God.
Then I went into Palomar, and I started doing well in math. I'm like, I can actually do this. And it wasn't until this incident with my ex-wife, that I went down. But when I came back to Maricosta, every semester since, have earned a 4.0. I've gone through the whole sequence of calculus. Even when I was in the hands of a professor that in a summer course was like, in my class, there is such thing as a stupid question. You don't ask stupid questions in my class. So even in higher education,
you still had some of that happening.
Yeah.
Wow. So it turns out, anyway, Nora, do you know calculus?
I know how to spell it.
Yeah, I just got through, like I said, basic algebra, and that was it. Would you say you had a talent for math all along?
Yes, But you know what? I'm still dealing with that fear. I'm working through it. But I've decided to challenge myself, and so I've declared my major as sociology, and I would like to pursue a minor in mathematics. And I think it's a way for me to heal. Not only that, but looking around, the time that I've been at the community college, there's very few students of color in STEM related classes, and unfortunately a lot of professors, they cannot relate to their stories or have never lived their lived experiences, and so how can these students see themselves as professors, administrators in these STEM related fields, especially for students like me, formerly incarcerated folks or system impacted,
Well, but you moved on, and like I said, it's easy for us to label ourselves. It's easy for other people to label us and to be held back by those things, and you haven't let that happen. And I know it hasn't been that easy, and probably very hard and painful and such. So, you're touching on a topic actually that's very important to us, and that's the psychology of learning and the psychology of teaching. And just the conditions under which those things happen, and so we're gonna come back and maybe explore that a little bit more, and have Nora talk a bit about her program and just a bit more about Luis, and then just other people who are part being affected, right, and encouraging each other. Would you say?
Yeah, definitely. If it wasn't for the transitions community, I honestly don't know where I would be today.
All right,
it's really, they're my anchor.
Okay, well, we'll be right back. We've been talking to Luis Jimenez and Nora Kenney-Whitley from the Palomar College Transition Program. I'm Jose Cruz from the San Diego Council on Literacy. You're listening to the Literacy for All radio show on WS Radio, the worldwide leader in Internet talk.
Does your business do a lot of shipping and wish you could get more for less? Stamps.com is the solution. It's the ideal way to automate and simplify your e-commerce shipping needs. Easily import all your venues like eBay, Amazon, and others. Trips to the post office will soon become a memory. Stamps.com gives you postage on demand. Just click, print, and mail at discounted shipping rates. See why so many e-commerce businesses have switched. Visit Stamps.com.
I raised $8,000 to build schools for South African children. After realizing how many people go hungry in San Diego, I now volunteer at a food pantry.
I'm spending the next year doing volunteer projects across 3 countries and helping in ways they designate to be the most helpful.
The World Link program at the Joan B. Kroc Institute for Peace and Justice recognizes the potential of youth as agents of social change. Learn how you can help youth become a generation of leaders in action at peace.sandiego.edu.
Love to read but just don't have the time? With Audible.com, you can catch up on reading simply by listening. Audible has the largest collection of digital audiobooks, over 85,000 titles in every genre. Listen to a bestseller on your iPhone, BlackBerry, Android smartphone, or one of 500 other compatible devices. Visit audible.com/WS Radio today and get a free audiobook when you try Audible free for 14 days. That's audible.com/WS Radio.
I've heard this is like one of the best pizza spots in town.
Yes, it is.
I'll do a slice of pepperoni, slice of vegetarian.
You got it.
And I will pay for all of that in 3 days.
In 3 days? What's that mean?
Well, wait, you accept credit cards. That money's not going to hit your account for 3 days anyway.
I need my money quicker.
At Chase, we hear you. With Express Funding, card payments are in your Chase account the next business day. Go to chase.com/expressfunding. Chase for business, so you can.
Compensated participation. All businesses are subject to credit approval. Not all clients are eligible for next business day funding, and additional terms, conditions, and restrictions apply.
Can you imagine a world without children? A world without their smiles or their laughter? A world where children don't play or sing or dream or imagine?
At St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, we can't imagine a world without children. That's why we're working every day to find cures for diseases that strike down children everywhere. Diseases like cancer, pediatric AIDS, and sickle cell. And we won't stop until every child is cured and every disease is defeated. because we can't imagine a world without children. Can you?
Finding cures, saving children. St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. To learn how you can help, log on to our website, stjude.org.
Talk to me. WSRadio.com.
The San Diego Council on Literacy brings you Literacy for All with your host, Jose Cruz.
Welcome back to the show. I'm Jose Cruz from the San Diego Council on Literacy. You're listening to the Literacy for All radio show, and we're on WS Radio. We've been talking to Luis Jimenez and Nora Kenney-Whitley, and Nora runs the Transitions Program at Palomar College. We want to talk about that program, Nora, but I want to tell you, I mean, Luis has got like, 5-hour show here, right? We can just start all the way, just going all the way to, we could talk about the U.S. justice system and immigration and even marital status and, relationships and all that, but you have a story. You have a story, and golly, I hope you get to tell it, write it, share it more. But Nora, you've been running this program about a year now, and I know you have experience with other incarcerated populations. And by the way, Luis, I have to say this: there are a lot of good people who are incarcerated, and then there are a lot of people that you hear that were incarcerated. And it's like you didn't belong in there, and that's the sense I get from you. You didn't belong in there. And so I'm just so glad for the Transitions Program. And Nora, and you can take it from there, just the people that you get to hear from and their story.
Well, the thing that's so amazing about the Transitions Program is every student has a story like Luis's. These students, before working for Palomar College, I actually taught directly in the Vista Jail, and I taught adult education. So I worked with probably 300 students in that time. And I would say that maybe of those 300 students, there were 5 that I wouldn't, if I had been allowed to, that I wouldn't say, come on over for a barbecue at my house. Mm-hmm. This is, like walking in on day one, I was like, what's this going to be like? Mm-hmm. And I was constantly amazed at how intelligent and resourceful and respectful and motivated these students were. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that's really interesting to me is when we take away the components of basic needs. For example, I had a student in the jail who was taking my classes in adult education. He was also taking Palomar College classes, and he was thriving. His college classes, he was getting straight A's. And then he was released from jail and went back to his old life. Right. And he was really doing his best to raise his family and to make ends meet and to pay the bills. But the struggles with addiction and drug use that had really been knocked down a little bit in jail, but not completely conquered, I think really impacted him. And so he came to the Transitions Program, but he did not do well academically. And I think it was because in jail, it's a horrible traumatic experience. And every day I was with my students in their trauma. Mm-hmm. And then, but he was able to focus and didn't have to worry about his basic needs. And then when he got out, he was having to worry about those basic needs. Oh. And for me, it speaks to why the Transitions Program is powerful, because we help with those wraparound services. So Luis, we talk about through the community, we get education, we get support for each other. We have a very powerful network where it's like, do you need a job? Let's see who's hiring. You having trouble in your classes. So I'll tell the story of Luis and another transition student named Santos. And the two of them are leaders in this community, and they rely on each other. So Santos isn't so great with technology, but Luis is amazing. And then Santos is a bit older and has done counseling and dealt with been a counselor. Mm-hmm. And so they reach out to each other and reciprocate, with Santos offering his guidance as someone who's a bit more experienced and has a psychology background. And Luis helps him with things like technology, because mm-hmm. he did a lot of time and was released right when technology was how everyone was communicating. Mm-hmm. So it's the power of that community and that cohort model. And I really am just the facilitator. Ideally, what I'm doing is I'm bringing people into the community and then letting them connect with each other. And that's the way it's really worked. But as far as like these notions of all these people who are locked up, and I worked mostly with men, being these bad people, like I said, there were less than 10 people that I would not feel 100% comfortable having as a guest in my home. So I really feel like, unfortunately, literacy and just the public schools being so strapped for resources, when you're a teacher and you have 30 students, there's no way you can give the student the kind of attention that they really need to thrive. And those are the students like Luis who, if a really attentive teacher knew of Luis's math trauma, they would have worked with him.
Yeah.
And they would have discovered his brilliance in math. It's obvious he's acing calculus 3, So that would have been discovered much sooner.
Right.
But like Luis said, I really admire his stance on, this is what made me where I am today. So instead of struggling with the things he has, he sees it as making himself, into this whole person that he is. And can I just throw out there that Luis is 28 years old? Like,
I was doing the math, yeah.
At that age, with all my privilege, at that age, I was just a total disaster.
Yeah,
you know?
What I love about all of this, one of the things at least, is that there's that support, but there's also the people. Well, at one time, Luis was the new guy, right? And now there are new people coming in behind him. Have you had the opportunity to be a mentor, Luis, for other people?
You know what? I always I put my life on the line, and I think I'll always will, because it's easy to judge, but I think it's not until you have somebody in your family that struggles with addiction, or that runs into a problem with the legal system, that you truly understand what a fucked up system it is. And I think the education system is broken. Instead of like teaching us how to look at numbers and read and all that, I think emotions are really important, and that's why a lot of these guys are on the streets and in jail. So going back to your question, I try to do a lot of I try to reach out to a lot of people that are still on the streets. Yeah. And so I personally don't have a degree. I have a 2-year degree, but I don't have a bachelor's, so I don't have power in society. But I'll grab people's business card and be like, hey, do you want to go to school? Like, here, there's more out there than the 5 mile radius that you think you live in. So I'm just how that mentor of mine planted that seed of education. It may take some time to flourish, but I think the power of that seed at some point in their lives, it's gonna take off.
There you go. Woo. I had a number of questions, and right now I don't have one. And I think what I was going to say was related to STEM, and having this conversation with people in our network who are like, we're looking for these high school students and Latinos and people coming into the field. We need scientists and technicians and engineers and mathematicians, and it's like, man, you're starting way too late. We're starting way too late, and we're squandering all these opportunities to nurture and invest in people like Luis, who I would say probably had this talent in him all along. And how many people are we losing? And percentage-wise, right, Nora? What would you say?
I have no idea on the percentage, but you're reminding me of some of the other things with Palomar Transitions Program is that we have faculty who are allies to our students. For example, Dr. Susan Miller, who's a sociologist, she's teaching a class next semester on statistics and sociological research methods, social science research methods. And Luis is going to take that class with Santos and whoever else is going to take it as a cohort. And Dr. Miller is an ally, and she's going to make sure that the students are armed so that when they go to these top 4-year universities like UCSD or UC Berkeley or wherever Luis ends up, they're going to have that foundation that is really going to serve them well when they're going to the next level, getting their bachelor's and probably their professional and graduate degrees. So it's really about finding your allies and finding your people.
Right.
and the fact that this program has so many community partnerships, like JCCS, where Luis went to high school. Well, those are our students too.
Yeah, a couple of things I want to say, and one of them is when I transferred from community college, and I went for 3 years. I had 120 units. I took a lot of classes because I wasn't that strong in high school, so I made up for it. I had to drop out of one class because I was failing at it, statistics. But that wasn't what I was going to say, so I want to come back to that. What I wanted to say is I transferred to USC. I never thought I'd go to a private university ever, or there would be money for it. But they built in, there were 2 floors in a dorm that were called the Latino floors, and they built those there for us because they knew going into that setting we needed a support system. It was really smart, and this was way back in 1977. It's needed because you're going to a place where you don't maybe haven't had anyone in your family go to college who could tell you about these things, the cultures that you're dealing with, and it is cultures, or the university culture. But I'm hoping that you're going to get into one of these schools, and two,
hopefully, and like for example, like UCSD, they're barely starting their chapter over there. Mm-hmm. But obviously, you run into a lot of roadblocks, and they may, like UCSD or UCLA. No, I think UCLA has one, but like those UCs or Cal States that don't have those programs, they might say, well, you got all these programs. Why don't you go to those programs? They can also provide you support. Yes, but it's like, let's say you go to.
I'm going to cut you off right now because we're going to go into break. But pick up that thought because it is part of the transition. It's another transition, right? Mm-hmm. Anyway, we're talking to Luis Jimenez, and then Nora Kenney-Whitley from Palomar College Transitions Program. I'm Jose Cruz. This is the Literacy for All radio show on WS Radio, the worldwide leader in Internet talk.
Thank you for listening to WS Radio. Improve your business and your life with useful information from experts and thought leaders. WS Radio is radio with ROI.
The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention is working to help keep you and your community safe from the threat of novel or new coronavirus. Take the following everyday steps to help avoid the spread of all respiratory viruses. Wash your hands often with soap and water for at least 20 seconds. Cover your cough or sneeze with a tissue. Throw the tissue away and then wash your hands. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Clean and disinfect frequently touched objects or surfaces, such as remote controls and doorknobs. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. And stay home if you are sick. Call your healthcare provider if you develop fever, cough, or difficulty breathing. For more tips, visit cdc.gov.
Can you imagine a world without children? A world where children don't play, or dream, or imagine?
At St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, we're working every day to find cures for diseases that strike down children, because we can't imagine a world without children. Can you?
Finding cures, saving children. St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. To learn how you can help, log on to our website, stjude.org.
Homeless veterans and their families are suffering and need our support, but many won't ask or don't know that help is within reach. Veterans Community Services is here to help. Amazingly, about 35% of the homeless in our neighborhoods are veterans with families. Low-income veterans or their friends are encouraged to contact Veterans Community Services and reach out for help with housing and other services. Call now, 800-974-9909.
Do you want to be a professional coach? Are you in business trying to make a real difference with people you manage or work with? Have you started a coaching practice that isn't quite getting off the ground? Get the skills you need to be a successful coach today with the Coaches Training Program from Accomplishment Coaching. The Coaches Training Program will show you how to help others focus and be more fulfilled. Whether you want to improve your company's bottom line or create a thriving coaching practice, Accomplishment coaching can give you the distinctions and practices you need to coach others effectively today. Accomplishment Coaching has spent 6 years developing a cutting-edge coaches training program that will have you ready to coach people professionally in just 12 months, and you don't have to take time off work to do it. To find out more about the coaches training program, just call 1-888-548-6813. That's 1-888-548-6813.
Talk to me. WSRadio.com.
The San Diego Council on Literacy brings you Literacy for All with your host, Jose Cruz.
Welcome back to the show. I'm Jose Cruz from the San Diego Council on Literacy. We're in our final segment with our conversation with Luis Jimenez and Nora Kenney-Whitley. They're from the Palomar College Transitions Program, and boy, are we learning a lot, and I'm looking at it as we ran out of time because we're down to our last 9 minutes, and I feel like we're just getting warmed up here. Nora, what kind of college is Palomar? It's not a community college, is it?
No, it is.
Is it? Okay,
yeah.
All right. So it's just not called that. Very good. And just and as it compares to Miracosta College, which is nearby, kind of the same thing.
It is very similar. The thing that's not similar is that Miracosta doesn't have a dedicated transitions program.
Mm-hmm.
So students from Miracosta are coming to Palomar for our transitions program. So that's how we poached Luis, honestly. Mm-hmm. And it's unfortunate, but hopefully that'll change. And Luis is actually in the Palomar district, living in Escondido. But with the incident that happened with Palomar police when Luis tried to kill himself, he was unable to enroll at Palomar for a while. He just really needed someone to help him go through the paperwork and the appeals process. And that's what the transitions program was able to advocate for Luis. And fortunately, we got him back to Palomar, where he began his educational journey. And then we're able to support him so that he can go to a top school like UCSD, or he's looking at applying to some of the Ivy League schools. So it's really been a process for Luis, and I share this because he and I talk frequently, and he tells me his story, and I'm so privileged to hear them. But it reminds me of two things. One, through the sociology class that he took at Palomar, he started to put together all these things in his life that he was experiencing and seeing the structural, the structures of the social world and how that is stacked against people of color. You know, during the break, we were talking about I, as a white woman growing up in Orange County, we were poor, but I had so much privilege that my childhood trauma was one thing that I didn't also get pushback from these systems that were set up for me by people who looked like me, right? So Luis going into combining sociology and math is so powerful because he can be that person at the front of the room that encourages other, not just black and brown people, but white people to see black and brown people as more than these stereotypes that are in movies and TV and all these things, right? So the one thing I want to recommend for my white brethren and sisters is you have friends of color in your life. Listen to their stories and believe them, please. For me, as someone who considers myself as an anti-racist, that's what kind of flipped my switch. Growing up, seeing these inequities and not really being able to put words to it, and then listening to my black and brown friends talking about their experiences, I'm like, my head exploded, honestly.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, this is what people I care about deal with every day, right? Yeah. So listening to and taking these stories seriously and not just thinking, oh, that's just them, or they have this victim mentality. That's not true.
Yeah.
It's not true.
It's telling the truth, and it's hard sometimes, I think, for us
exactly.
to hear it.
And for me as an academic, I taught at UC Berkeley for about 10 years before moving back to my native San Diego. And the students that are in the transitions program, and many, 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 if not most of the students at the jail, I look at them and their intelligence, and I look at my students at Berkeley, and I was like, they should be at Berkeley.
Yeah.
They should be at Berkeley. And so talking with Luis about the possibility going to Berkeley or a school like it, that's where he should have been all along.
And how much are those students going to benefit from interacting with Luis and knowing him and being enlightened by their interaction with him? You
Absolutely.
had something to say.
Yeah, and I think here's something very important that Dr. Nora said. For example, like I go to MiraCosta as well, right? But MiraCosta doesn't have a program for formerly incarcerated or system impacted students. So here we go again, highlighting that are these systems designed to make people like me, people of color, fail? And I think they are, because look, I was driven out of MiraCosta because of that lack of, that program not being there. Now, I thankfully landed in the transitions program, but what about other folks that were at MiraCosta that did not have the proper people to go to be like, hey, there's a program. What if those people ran back to the streets, or and I think I'd like to take this opportunity to like call out on all the UCs and all the Cal States to really think about having these programs, because for example, like let's say you and I go to a party, right, and there's like 1,000 people. I only know you, but then I feel uncomfortable around all these people. I'm like, are they gonna judge me? Let's go, And so the argument from the UCs and the Cal States and even the community college may be, well, there's all these programs. Yeah, but, I've gone to like Mecha, Echalestema, MiraCosta, and it's like nobody can relate to my experiences, or whenever I was facing like some type of struggle, they're like, we don't know what to tell you, bro.
Yeah.
And that just drove me out.
Fortunately, there are allies at MiraCosta, including Dr. Tao Ha, who's the one who introduced us. So there are people watching out for formerly incarcerated and system-impacted students. So that's been fortunate. Yeah.
So let me ask a question, a little bit off, but not so much. And I have fun doing this, and I don't talk about it that much. My name's Jose Cruz. All right, you hear that? You don't see me, and I'm light-skinned Latino, but my name is Jose Cruz, and now you're meeting me, and then you're going, okay, he's not what I thought he was going to look like. Okay, I'm an English major. All right, your English is better than mine. Okay, etc. Right? It's a good long list. Tell us a story where you surprised people.
Oh, and immigration.
Okay. I would guess so, right? You're the spokesperson.
So there, no. So there was an agent, right? And she was asking me a question, and I answered in English. She looks at me from head to toe. I was like, "Oh, you speak English?
Yeah.
You're very articulate." Like, yeah. Like,
yeah, hello, yeah, right?
Yeah, I speak English, of course.
Yeah. And there's some fun. There's some.
He's been here since he's 10 years old. Of course he speaks English.
And I've had people ask me if I spoke English before I got to open my mouth. And it's like, geez, yeah, I'm an English major. I got a bachelor's in English.
The man who's the San Diego Council on Literacy
my
CEO.
Favorite author, yes, my favorite author is Charles Dickens, some English guy. Right? And that's what I want to say. Luis, we have to have you back. But what I want to say to you is I look forward to the update on your journey, because there's going to be some really fun stuff happening. And just, you have a job to do, because, you're representing all the people that you're working with right now, and you're representing yourself, and I know that's important to you. And I know you have a family. You got your boys?
2 boys, yeah.
Yeah, and right, and so here you are, man. You did it. You earned it. You worked for it. You stayed with it. You had faith in it. You built from an unsteady place, and here you are today. I got a couple of minutes just to give to you. Not even that long. All right, 40 seconds. What do you want to say?
I just want to thank you for having me here, and anybody that's listening to this program. I don't ask them to listen to this program with an open mind, but with an open heart.
Very good.
Because I think that has to come first, because the mind, like, it can trick us,
That's right.
But
that's right.
The heart, I think that's stronger than the mind. And unfortunately, that's something that today we have lost in our society. Mm-hmm. The love for people.
Do you keep a journal?
Sometimes.
All right. Yeah, you're like me. Nora, last words?
Well, I think I just want to echo what Luis is saying, and please, again, listen to your friends, listen to stories you see on the internet, believe them. It's someone's reality. Do what you can to stand up for people when you see it happening.
Yeah. Yeah, the whole thing now, I have my phone with me, and we all do, and golly, before we all carried cameras, I hate to say it, nobody believed what you see now on TV, what you see posted on Facebook. There's another world out there, and people are having to fend for themselves in it. We're going to hear back from you again, Luis. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nora. You've been listening to folks from the Palomar College Transition Program, and you've been listening to the Literacy for All radio show on WS Radio, the worldwide leader in Internet talk.
Do you want to be a professional coach? Are you in business trying to make a real difference with people you manage or work with? Have you started a coaching practice that isn't quite getting off the ground? Get the skills you need to be a successful coach today with the Coaches Training Program from Accomplishment Coaching. The Coaches Training Program will show you how to help others focus and be more fulfilled. Whether you want to improve your company's bottom line or create a thriving coaching practice, Accomplishment Coaching can give you the distinctions and practices you need to coach others effectively today. Accomplishment Coaching has spent 6 years developing a cutting-edge coaches training program that will have you ready to coach people professionally in just 12 months, and you don't have to take time off work to do it. To find out more about the Coaches Training Program, just call 1-888-548-6813. That's 1-888-548-6813.
You can reduce your risk of COVID-19 by cleaning and disinfecting frequently touched items and surfaces every day. These items include remotes, tables, counters, light switches, doorknobs, handles, toilets, and sinks. Wear disposable gloves to clean and disinfect. If you can see that the item is dirty, wash first with soap and water or another general cleaner. Then use a household disinfectant to kill germs. Follow manufacturer's instructions for application and proper ventilation to safely use the product. For phones or other electronics, follow the manufacturer's instructions for cleaning and disinfecting. If no instructions, use alcohol-based wipes or sprays containing at least 70% alcohol. Dry surface thoroughly. For more tips, visit cdc.gov.
Some of the best sounds you'll ever hear are generic, safe, effective, even money-saving, just like FDA-approved generic drugs. Even if they don't come in the exact same color or shape as their brand name equivalents, they have the same key ingredients and go through a rigorous review process. Talk to your doctor or pharmacist today and visit fda.gov/generic drugs. Generics are safe, effective, and can save you money. You'll like the sound of that.
I raised $8,000 to build schools for South African children. After realizing how many people go hungry in San Diego, I now volunteer at a food pantry.
I'm spending the next year doing volunteer projects across 3 countries and helping in ways they designate to be the most helpful.
The World Link program at the Joan B. Kroc Institute for Peace and Justice recognizes the potential of youth as agents of social change. Learn how you can help youth become a generation of leaders in action at peace.sandiego.edu.